So guys, in this video we will be talking about Intel 8051 microcontroller. So guys, if you are not familiar with the what is a microcontroller, then I would like to recommend a video by Bharat Acharya in which he has explained the difference between microcontroller and microprocessor very clearly. So if you are new to this topic, then please go through that video once and then come back to this video. So we will be covering the whole concept of 8051 in a single video. So I will be going through all the topics in a fast and easy manner. So you can say it as a crash course if you are having exam tomorrow. So please listen carefully and understand each and every topic. So hi guys, my name is Rohan and you are watching IT Cell. So guys, let's get started. So guys, I believe that you must have gone through that video of introduction to microcontroller once. Now let's talk about this topic. So I will be covering this whole PDF and talking about each and every topic very clearly. So first let's go to the introduction. So we will be talking about microcontrollers. Okay. So first let's look at what is a microcontroller. So microcontroller is basically, you can say, as a chip or a CPU which has peripherals like RAM, ROM, input output ports, timers, ADCs, etc. Some of the examples of microcontroller are Motorola 6811, uh, Intel 8051, Zilog Z8, and PIC 16X. So now let's talk about what is a microprocessor. Microprocessor is, you can say, as a CPU which is built into a single very large scale integrated chips, and it is known as a microprocessor. So you can say it as a general purpose device which, if we add some additional circuitry, then it will become a microcomputer. Okay, so it has ALU, instruction decoder, control unit, instruction register, program counter, clock circuit, reset circuit, and resistor, etc. So the difference between the microcontroller and microprocessor is that microprocessor does not have input output ports, timers, and memories. Okay, so some of the examples you must be familiar with microprocessor are 8085, which is a 8-bit microprocessor, 8086, 8088, which is a 16-bit microprocessor. Okay, so this is the block diagram of microprocessor. It has ALU, arithmetical logical unit, uh, accumulator, working registers, program counter, stack pointer, clock circuit, and interrupt circuits. Okay, so let's talk about microcontrollers in deep. So microcontroller is basically a highly integrated single chip which, you can say, having a CPU, RAM, EPROM, PROM, and ROM. You can say it is having a ROM. And then we have the input output, which can be serial or parallel, timer, interrupt, interrupt controller. Okay, so example of a microcontroller is 88-bit 8051 microcontroller by Intel. Another one is 8096, which is a 16-bit microcontroller. So guys, this is the block diagram of a microcontroller. It is having ALU, interrupt circuits, clock circuit, program counter, input output ports, internal RAM, register, accumulator, stack pointer, timer or controller, and then finally we are having the internal ROM. So now let's talk about the difference between a microprocessor and a microcontroller. So microprocessor is basically a general purpose device, but the microcontroller is having a you can say, a dedicated chip which is used for a specific purpose. Okay. Next thing is, microprocessor does not have input output ports, timers, or memories on its chip. Okay, but in this case we are having RAM, ROM, serial, and parallel input outputs, timers, interrupts on a single chip. Okay. Next thing is, microprocessor. Basically, you can say it as a CPU, commonly called as a CPU. It is in this case, microcontroller is basically designed for performing control-oriented application. For example, controlling your TV, controlling your AC or your toys, etc., etc. Next thing is, in this case, it is mainly, you can say, a nibble or byte addressable machine instructions, and in this case it is having both bit and byte addressable instructions. It is used for catering to the large volume of data, but in this case It is used for catering control of input and outputs. Only input and outputs are controlled. Next thing is microprocessors are complex and expensive, but microcontrollers are simple and cost effective. Instructions basically they are more complex in comparison to the microcontroller. And finally, microprocessor has zero status flag, but microcontroller does not have a zero flag. Okay. Next thing is about the evolution of microcontroller. So if you want to cover this topic, then you can finally go through this PDF. The link of this PDF is given below in the description. So this is a short paragraph, so you can read it once. Next thing we will talking about the types of microcontroller. So on the basis of internal bus width, architecture, memory and instruction set, we can classify it as 4-bit, 8-bit, 16-bit and 32-bit microcontrollers. So first one is the 4-bit microcontroller. So you can say it is having a small size, it is having the minimum number of pin count, and it is used for the application like LED or LCD displays, or you can say you can use it as a portable battery charger. Okay. Next thing is one of the example of 4-bit microcontroller is Renesas M34501, which is having 20 pin. And it is having 4 KB of ROM and 256 bytes of RAM. Second one is the 8-bit microcontroller. It is most popular and widely used microcontroller. Approximately 55% of the all the devices you can see are made up of this 8-bit microcontrollers. Okay. It is having a 8-bit internal buses, and ALU basically performs all the arithmetic and logical operations. One of the example is 8051, which is designed by Intel, and other examples are 8031, 8052 or Motorola, etc, etc. Third one is the 16-bit microcontroller. So it is basically used to perform 16-bit arithmetic and logical operations. It is having the more memory size and increased speed in comparison to 8-bit microcontroller, and you can use the high level programming language like C or C++ in this case. Okay. Next is 32-bit microcontroller. It is used for high-end applications like automotive, control, communication, networks, robotics, and cell phones, etc. So we will talking about the commercial microcontroller. So commercial ones are the family of Intel 51. The Intel 51 family basically contains 8031, which is having 128 bytes of RAM, and but it does not have program memory. It is having two timers, five interrupts, and one serial port. Next thing is 8032, which is having 256 bytes of RAM. It does not have memory, and it is having the three timers, six interrupt, and one serial port. Next is 8051, which is having 128 bytes of RAM, 4 KB of ROM, two timers, five interrupts, and one serial ports. Okay. Next thing is the 8052, 256 bytes of RAM, 8 KB of ROM, three timers, and six interrupts, and one serial port. Okay. So if you want to do programming in microcontroller, then you need these development tools. One is the editor, in which you can create a assembly language program. The next step is you have to process this program with the use of assembler. So your program will be having .asm extension, file extension. So after going through the assembler, it will be converted to machine language, or you can say binary codes, and it will be having .hex extension. Next is the compiler. So if with the help of compiler, you can convert high level programming languages into binary or machine codes. Okay. Next is debugger. So if you are having some problem, or if your answer is not correct according to the application, then you can finally debug your application using a debugger, or you can say troubleshooter. So you can set up the breakpoints and finally debug your application. So now finally we are here with the 8051 microcontroller. So let's talk about this completely. Okay, so it is a 8-bit microcontroller and it is having 40 pin in its chip. Okay, and works on 5 volts DC supply. Some silent feature of this microprocessor is it is a 4 KB chip. It is having the 4 KB of ROM, 128 bytes of RAM, 8-bit data bus, 16-bit address bus. So I think you must be familiar with all the three type of buses, system buses. That is the address bus that is used to fetch the address. And next thing is the data bus that is used to read and write, and the control operation whether to read or whether to write is decided by the control bus. So the next is the 32. It has having 32 general purpose register and each is of 8 bytes, two 16-bit timers T0, T1, 5 interrupts, 3 internal and 2 external, 4 parallel ports each of 8 bits, that is port 0, 1, 2, 3. And if each port is of 8-bit, then total becomes 32-bit input output lines. Okay, next is 16-bit program counter and 16-bit data pointer, 8 bits of stack pointer. Okay, so we will be covering all these in our in the upcoming topics. Okay, next is it is 1 microsecond instruction cycle. It is having 1 micro instruction cycle. Next thing is it is having 1 microsecond instruction cycle, 1 full duplex serial communication port. Okay, so let us look first at the architecture, or you can say the block diagram of 8051 microcontroller. So this is the block diagram. So it is having the arithmetic and logical unit of 8 bits. A and B are two resistors where A is the accumulator. Next is the program counter, which is a 16-bit. Next is the data pointer, which is used to point the external memory, and data pointer is basically a 16-bit. It is having the two, you can say it, you can use it, the two of them separately. One is the DPH, which is represent the higher bit, and DPL for lower bit, and both of them are 8-bit each. Next is the PSW, that is the program status register, which you can say as a flag register, and it is of 8-bit. Next we are having the special purpose register or RAM, and you can say it is as a data memory where the everything is where you can store the data. Okay, next is the ROM, you can say it as a primary memory. And finally these are all the 4 ports of input and output. Okay, so these are having some special function. We will be going through each one of them. First one is the A and B registers. So basically they are the A and B register are special function register that holds the result of many arithmetic and logical operation of 8051. A you can say as accumulator. You must be familiar with the accumulator. Okay, and finally you can perform the operations such as multiplication, division, etc, etc. The next is the R registers. So there are 8 type of registers: R0, R1 up till R7, and they are used to store the values temporarily. Next is the program counter, which is a 16-bit program counter, which always points to the address of the next instruction to be executed. Okay, so next is the stack pointer. It is a 8-bit stack register, which basically points to the top of the stack. You can perform the operations such as push, pop, ecall, lcall, ret, regi on the stack. Okay, next is the stack in 8051 microcontroller. So we will be going through the stack in a little bit deep. So stack is basically a part of RAM which is used by the CPU to store the information temporarily. Okay, so stack pointer is 8-bit register. So you can perform the operations such as push and pop. So let me show you how the operation is going on. So the loading of the data from the CPU register to the stack is done by the push operation, and the loading of the content of the stack back into CPU register is done by the pop. For example, you are having this instruction move R6 comma hash 35h. So this is the value. So you are putting this value in the R6 register. Okay, and similarly you are putting 21 in R1 register. Now the thing is, you are you are writing push 6, so it will be pushing the value in register R6 into the stack. Okay, so value will be put into the stack. Similarly, you are saying the push 1, the value present in the register 1 will be pushed in the top of the stack. Similarly, when you pop, if you are saying pop 3, then the topmost value present in the stack will be moved to the register R3. Okay, so 3 means register R3 here, and the stack pointer which is pointing to the top of the stack will be decreased by 1. Okay, will be decreased by 1. So next is the data pointer register, which is a 16-bit register, and it is user accessible. It is used to access the external memory. Okay, we will be going through what is the external memory in the later section. So by now I think you should remember it, that data pointer register is used to point to the external memory. Okay, so it has two 8 register two 8-bit registers such as DPH and DPL. So let me show you where it is. So as I have already mentioned in my previous section that data pointer is a 16-bit and it is having the two 8-bit registers such as DPH and DPL. So next thing is the program status register. So it is a 8-bit register which you can say as a flag register. So here it is present 8-bit or flag register. So out of the 8 bits, 6 bits are used by 8051 and 2 bits are used, basically used bits that can be defined by the user. Okay, so there is a diagram. So this one is the carry, this is the auxiliary carry, and this one is the flag 0 that is available for general purpose. Then we have the register bank select bit 1, register bank select bit 0. So we will be covering this register bank in my in this part. Okay, so next is the overflow flag. If the stack is overflow or anything is overflow, then we can use this flag. Next is the parity. Okay, so register bank is basically representing the which registers to be used. Okay, so you can say it as when it is 00, then it is 2 to the power 0. Okay, you must be familiar with the binary thing, to convert into the binary into the decimal. So we are doing this thing. Okay, so finally 00 represent the 0th register, or you can say 0th register bank, which is having the address from 0 to 7. So it is having the 8 register here. Next is the register bank 1. Okay, finally we just sum the values, we will get 1. Similarly we will sum, when we will sum this value, we will get 2 and this will 3. So these are basically representing, you can say, a block, where a block of register which one to select using the register bank. Okay, so if we are having the value of register bank 2, then we will be using the registers at this, we will be using these addresses. Okay, next is the memory organization. So guys, as you know that the 8051 has 128 bytes of internal RAM, okay, and 4 KB of ROM. So RAM is also known as data memory and ROM is known as program memory. So let me show you where is the RAM. So here is the RAM, it is known as the data memory, and here is the ROM, it is known as the program memory. So you can extend the value of ROM. For example, now it is having only 4 KB of ROM. So if you want to extend the ROM, then it can be extendable up to 64 KB. So please remember that this question is asked many times in exam. So how much KB till you can extend the value of ROM? So this is ROM here. Okay, so internal RAM of 8051, so you can use it for the operations such as reading, writing and modifying. So RAM has, as you see that RAM has 128 bytes of internal storage. So 128 bytes is divided into first 32 bytes are you can see that 32 bytes are occupied by the four register banks: bank 0, bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, as we have covered in my previous section, and each of the bank is of 8 bit. So 8 into 4 will be equals to 32 bytes. Okay, now the next 16 bytes are occupied by bit addressable area, and finally left 80 bytes are used for journal purpose, for the, you can see, the scratch pad memory. So this is the diagram, or you can see the block diagram of the internal RAM. 80 bytes are occupied by journal purpose or the scratch memory, or the next 16 bytes are occupied by the bit addressable area. So now after that we have the register banks, and each register bank is having the 8 bits. Okay, so we are having the 32 byte. So now let's talk about the internal ROM. So internal ROM is of 4 KB of chip, and finally it can be extendable up to 64 KB. So you can extend up to 64 KB. So this is the diagram of ROM. So it is a 4 KB, but if you want to extend, then it can be extendable up to 64 KB. So another one, we have the special function registers. You can say SFRs. So they are meant for certain specific operations. Next thing is the in SFRs. In these SFRs, some of them are related to input output ports, that is P0, P1, P2, and P3. Okay, and some of them are meant for the control operations, such as these operations. These are okay. Next thing is these are given for the SFRs, name of the SFRs. So you can go through this SFRs for more information. Okay. Next thing is the parallel input and output ports. So there are four parallel input and output ports, each of 8 bits. So it provides the user 32 input output lines of connections. Okay, let me show you. These are all the four ports, and each port is of 8 bits. So it is having the 8 lines here. So it is not shown, but it is having 8 lines. So let's talk about the port 0 first. So port 0 is 8-bit input output dual purpose port. So basically it is having the two roles. So if the external memory is used, okay, if used, then these ports pins, these port pins are used for lower address byte addresses or data. Okay, so basically it says that it can be used for address and data bytes, and if it is not available, okay, if external memory is not used, otherwise all the bytes of the port are either input or output. Okay, next thing is if you provide the address latch enable equals to 0, then it is used to provide data, and when ALE is equals to 1, then it provides address and data both with the help of this latch. Okay, next thing is the pull up registers. So basically the port 0 is not provided with a internal pull up register. So generally all the ports such as port 1, 2, and 3 are having the internal pull up register, but the port 0 does not have the internal pull up register, so it is provided externally using these. Okay, so each register is of 10k. So let me explain you what is a pull up register. Pull up register is basically a register that is used to ensure a known state for a signal. Okay, so the next thing is the port 1. It is only used for the input and output. It is having 8 pins, and it does not require any pull-up register. Second thing is the port 2, which is a 8-bit register, and it also has a dual role. Okay, so it does not so it is also having the internal pull-up register and does not need an external pull-up register. So upon reset, P2 is configured as a output port. So what is the dual role? So it is basically capable of accessing 64 bytes of external memory. So you can access the 64 bytes of external memory using the port 2. Next thing is the port 3, which is a 8-bit parallel port with dual functions. Okay, So dual function means it is used for input and output as well as for the control operation, and you do not need any external pull-up register in this case. Alternative functions of port 3 are you can receive data or you can transmit data using the serial communication signal. Okay, so these are all the bits of port 3. These are the port numbers and these are all the functions of each bit. So now let's talk about the interrupt structure. An interrupt structure is internal or external event that disturbs the microcontroller to inform it that a device needs its service. Okay, so basically, whenever the something disturbance occur, it will use the interrupt structure. So the device, so it is basically a program which is associated with the interrupt is known as the interrupt service routine, or you can say the interrupt handler. So there are 5 interrupts in addition to reset. First one is the timer 0, timer 1, external interrupt 0, external interrupt 1, serial port events such as buffer full, buffer empty, etc. So, and these are the code memory where the program execution begins, as you can see here. Next thing is the interrupt enable register. So EA basically is a global enable disable. Whenever this bit, basically these bits are set to high whenever you want to enable the interrupt. Okay. Next thing is the it is used for undefined. If you want, it will be, if you want something extra, then it will be available in future. Okay. Next thing is the enable or disable. It is used for timer to overflow interrupt. Next thing is ES is serial port interrupt. Next thing is the timer 1 interrupt. Next thing is the external interrupt. Next one is the timer 0, and then we have the external interrupt 0. So these upon the reset, whenever we do the reset, then they have the following priority from top to down. Okay, so priority can be set to high or low by the 8-bit IP register. So interrupt pointer register are these ones. So these are the two IPs are reserved, and the rest of them are the timer 2 serial port, timer 1 external, timer 0 and external interrupt 0 parity bits. Okay, so now let's talk about the timer. So there are two 16-bit timers T0 and T1 which are used to generate some delays. Okay, so in the introduction video we have already talked about the delay by the Bharat Acharya sir. So I think you must be familiar with what kind of delay I am talking about in this case. Okay, so the next one is the timer 0. So timer 0 is a 16-bit register which can be treated as two 8-bit registers. Okay, TL0 means lower bit and TH means higher. Okay, so you can see in the diagram TH0 is represented by this part and TL0 is represented by this part. Next is the timer 1, in which TH1 is represented by this part and TH0 is TL1 is represented by this part. TMOD register. So this register operates the mode of both timer 0 and timer 1 and set an 8-bit register called TMOD register. Okay, this is used for this is used for basically setting up the various operation mode of T0 and T1. So there are various modes such as you can see gate or control clock timer, or we can say M1 and M2. So let me show you what is gate. So gate is basically a bit that is used to start or stop the timer by the hardware. Okay, when the gate is set to 1, timer can be started or stopped by the external source. When the gate is equal to 0, timer can be started or stopped by the software instructions like these ones. Okay, next thing is the clock timer. So it basically decide whether the timer is used as a delay generator or the event counter. Okay, whenever the clock timer is equals to 0, then it will be used as a delay generator, and whenever it is equals to 1, and then in that case it will be used as a event counter. Next thing is M1 or M0 mode. Okay, so these are the two bits that are the two timer modes bits. and it can be configured in three modes, that is M0, M1 and M2. So you can check out more about these modes in this table. Okay, next thing is the PCON SFR, special function registers. Okay, so these are basically used to control the two timers and provide the valuable information about them. So this is the table in which they have explained that whenever the name of the whatever is the name, then whatever is the byte address, and the explanation of the function timer 1 overflow, timer 1 run 0, and timer 0 run. Okay, so you can read this complete topic if you want more information, but this is not important, I think, for examination point of view. But if you want to cover each and every topic, then you can go through this PDF. Okay, so I will be covering the next topic as the pin diagram of 8051 microcontroller. So this is one of the most important topic generally asked in the exam. So as you know that 8051 is a microcontroller which is having 40 pins, okay, and it operates on 5 volts DC supply. So out of the 40, 32 pins are allotted for 4 parallel ports P0, P1, P2 and P3, which are these ones, okay. And the rest 8 pins basically are a VCC, that is voltage control, ground, XTALI 1, XTALI 2, RST, EA and PSEN. Okay, so we will be covering this in the next section. So XTALI 1 and XTALI 2, these are basically connected to quad crystal oscillator which run on the chip oscillator. Okay, so whenever if you want to set the source to any other oscillator, then you can connect it to the XTALI1 and make the XTALI2 as unconnected. Okay, so this is the basically diagram of the XTALI2 and XTALI1, and this is the ground. Okay, so finally, we are having with the pin diagram of the microprocessor of, of the microcontroller. So it is having the RST. It is the RST here means the reset pin, which is set to high. So whenever the high pulse is applied to this pin of the microcontroller, it will reset and terminate all the activities. It will it reset all the registers except the program counter. It will set all the registers to value 0 and the program counter value will be set to 0007. Okay, next is the external axis EA, that is the external axis, which is set to generally set to low. So this pin is connected to ground when the microcontroller is accessing the program code stored in the external memory. Whenever it is accessing the program which is stored in external memory, then it will be set to 0. Next is the program store enable, so which will be an output pin which is set to the active low. Next is the ALE, that is address latch enable, which is the output pin and which is in the active high state. Okay, so ALE pin will be acting as a demultiplexing the address and the data bus, because whenever the address and data are coming from the port 0, they are multiplexed. So to demultiplex, we will be using the ALE pin. Next are the 4 ports P0, that is having the registers from 0 to 7. Next is from the 8 to 15, from 0 to 7, then again from 0 to 7. So P0 basically act as a address and data pins. P2 act as a multiplexer with the high order address pins. Next is P1, which act as a input or output which is used to do input and output operation, and P3, which is used to do control operations such as read, write, timer 0, timer 1, interrupt 0, 1, receive data and transmit data. So the next topic is the addressing mode of 8051. So I think you must be familiar with the addressing modes. So these are all similar to that. First one is the immediate addressing mode. Second is the direct register addressing, register indirect addressing, and index addressing. So let's look at the immediate addressing mode. So it is generally having this hashtag sign This basically denote that you are having the data. Okay, so the data operand is a constant and it is a part of the instruction itself. It is known as the immediate addressing mode. So here it is having, we are saving the data 27 in the accumulator, 45 in the register R1. We are adding the register 45 to the register R1. So this is basically denoting the data. Next one is the direct addressing mode, in which we are having the address in the RAM. um, this is basically the address of the RAM, and we are having the value at this address, and we are moving the value at this address to register R1. Okay, so move the content of the RAM location 42 into register R1. Next is the register addressing mode. That is the, we are having the manipulation between the one registers. Basically, we can, so basically we can say that we are just moving values from one register to another. So the value of register R0 will be transferred to accumulator. Similarly, we are having the register indirect addressing, in which we are using the @ symbol. So it means that the value stored in register R0 will be an address which will be pointing to some memory location. So in at this memory location, whatever the value is given, we will be storing in the accumulator. Okay, but and similarly in the case of this, as we are having some kind of address, at this R1 is pointing to an address, and this address is having some memory. So this will some value, so the value of B will be stored at that location. Okay, so the next thing is the index addressing mode. So index addressing mode basically says that it is used in accessing the data elements of the lookup table entities located in the program room. So it basically says that we are having data pointer which is pointing, which is having the value 2000h, or you can see pointing to the location 2000h. Similarly, accumulator is pointing to some location such as 20h. So finally, when we sum this, we will be getting this location 2020 h, and at this location we are having data 24. So this 24 data will be then saved to accumulator. Okay, so this is the meaning of this function or this operation. Next, we are having the instruction sets. So these are all the instructions that are applicable on 8051. So you can pause the video or you can download the PDF to read about all these instructions. Next is the logical operation. Then we have the data transfer. Then we have the Boolean variable manipulation, program and machine control. So guys, finally we are having 8051 serial communication. So this is basically used for the serial communication between the computer and a microcontroller or the peripheral devices. So one of the ways is the serial data transfer. Next is the parallel data transfer. So as you can see, the serial communication uses only one or two data lines. Okay, so it means that you are sending each bit one by one. Okay, in parallel you can say send many bits at a single time, but in case of serial you can send only single bit at a time. So this is basically generally used for the long distance communication. So it has two methods. One is the asynchronous data transfer, and next one is the synchronous data transfer. So as you can see, we are having this diagram. So it is saying that it is a parallel to serial converter. So we are placing all the bits parallelly, and then we are sending the bits one by one. First one is a 0, then 1, then 1, and finally whenever the receiver receives a signal, it will convert the serial parallel data. So the next thing is the asynchronous data transfer. In this type of transfer, basically we are sending the signal without the using the clock signal to the receiver. Okay, instead of the clock signal, we are using special bits, such as you can see the start bit, which is used to alert the receiver that a word of data is about to be sent. You can see it here. So this is the start bit. We are saying we are sending it. It is saying to the receiver that we are about to send some data. Then we are having after that we are having data bits, and then we are having the parity to check any kind of error, and then we are finally stopping, then we are finally sending the stop bit to say that we are finally stopping it, the data transfer, or you can say the data transmission. So the baud rate is basically measured in bits per second. Next thing is the asynchronous data transfer. So in synchronous data transfer, we are sending, or you can say we are sharing a clock between sender and receiver. When we compare both asynchronous and synchronous, in this case synchronous will be more efficient because only data bytes are transmitted. But in case of asynchronous, we are sending the start bits, parity bits, and stop bit also. So but according to the cost, if we say, however, it will be costly because extra wiring and controlling circuits are required to share a clock signal between the sender and the receiver. So in case of cost, so synchronous data transfer will be costly. Next thing is the devices that are used, that use serial cables for communication, are split in two categories. First is the TTE, data terminal equipment, that are computer, printer, and terminals. Second one is the DCE, data communication equipment. This is used for communication purpose. It is the modem. So we will be talking about the parallel data transfer. In parallel communication, uses the multiple wires. You can say multiple wires for data transfer. Okay. So parallel data transfer is extremely high compared to serial data transfer. So it is, in this case we are having 8 bits to transfer the data. So it is 8 times faster than the serial data. In that case, in case of serial, we are sending data one by one, but in case of parallel, we are sending data simultaneously at the same time. So the difference between the serial communication and parallel communication is that it is only having a single line, it is having the group of lines or buses. So data congestion take place, it does not have data congestion, it is having the low speed, it is having the high speed. And next one is the implementation. Link is not that easy, but in case of it is easily implemented. But in case of cost, serial is much more cost effective, and in case of parallel, it is more expensive. It does not have crosstalk problem, but in case of this, it creates it crosstalk creates interface between the parallel lines. Okay, so no effect in of the inter-symbol interference and noise, but in case of this, it is extremely from inter-symbol interference and noise. Okay, then we have the bandwidth, which is much higher in case of serial, and in case of parallel it is having the lower bandwidth. Next is, it is more flexible. Single is more flexible, and parallel is basically not flexible because it depends upon the hardware. So it works on high frequency. Parallel buses are hard to run at high frequency. So finally, the last topic is the serial communication in 8051 microcontroller. So it is basically done using the two pins, that is port 3.0 and port 3.1. Okay, so the SCON serial controller register is basically of this type. So first one is the serial mode selector, second one is also the serial mode selector, third one is basically the used for microprocessor mode communication. Next is the receive enable. Next is the transmission mode, that 9-bit data transmitted in mode 2 and 3. Next is the data bit received in mode 2 and 3. Okay, next is the T1, which is the transmit interrupt flag, and R1, which is the receive interrupt flag. So M0 and SM1, so these are the two bits of SCON register, determine the framing of data by specifying the number of bits per character and start bits and stop bit. Okay, so these are the two bits that basically decide which mode to work. Okay, next is the receive enable bits, that is used to receive data from the RxD pin. So it must set to be 1. When it will be 0, then the receiver will be disabled. Next is the transmit interrupt, that is the D1 of the SCON register. When the S8051 finishes the transfer of 8-bit character, it raises the T1 flag to indicate that it is ready to transfer another byte. Okay, next is the last one, the RI, that is receive interrupt. It will raise the flag bit to indicate that a byte has been received and should be picked up before it's lost. So guys, I think that finally you are able to understand the complete working of 8051. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me below in the comment section. And if you like this video, please like the video, and finally you can subscribe the channel because I daily upload video related to tips and tricks used by smart students. So guys, that's all in this video. Thanks for watching.